UNC women's basketball continues their March Madness run.
With Hubert Davis out, who will be the next men's basketball coach?
And women's lacrosse drops a tough one at home.
All this coming up on Sports Extra.
From the Hussman School of Journalism and Media at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, covering the full range of Tar Heel athletics. This is Sports Extra.
Good morning and welcome to Sports Extra. I'm Ellie Bowman.
And I'm Molly Malik. Spring has officially arrived and the pollen is definitely making its presence known.
Just like our women's basketball team.
Local fans and students alike showed up in style to send off the women's basketball team as they headed to the Sweet 16. To give a boost of motivation for their upcoming matchup tonight, supporters lined South Road with shakers and cheers as the team got onto the bus. The Tar Heels are gearing up for a tough test, but with strong support here in Chapel Hill.
Tonight, the number 4 seed UNC women's basketball team faces the number 1 Connecticut Huskies in a Sweet 16 matchup in Fort Worth. The Heels are coming off a win on their home court against Maryland. Alina Arnasalo and Lainey Grant combined for 41 points. The Huskies entered the match undefeated, having more than doubled Syracuse's score Monday night. AZ Fudd alone had more than 30 points. Their lead scorer, Sarah Strong, is another player to look out for. UConn averages 89 points per game, about 15 more than North Carolina. UNC will need more production across the board, and a few other breakout efforts to knock off Connecticut. Tip-off is tonight at 5. It's game day, and here to read between the lines of the Heels' Sweet 16 matchup is our women's basketball analyst, Reed Weichel. Reed?
Thanks, Ellie. Tonight, the Heels have a chance for their first Elite Eight appearance in 12 years. But tonight's opponents are the UConn Huskies. They're the defending national champs. They're undefeated. They've won 52 straight. Their last single-digit win was in November. I could keep going. But we've seen unbeatable UConn teams in the past, and I don't think this is one of them. Let's see what it would take to do it. First, UConn forces an eye-watering amount of turnovers. And while they aren't particularly protective on offense, their margin is huge. Carolina struggled to control the turnover margin against Maryland. They'll need to be much better. Second, UConn's closest games come when their offense is taken out of their element. Low field goal percentages or a lack of outside shooting could keep the Heels in the mix, and that sounds like good news for the best defensive team in the ACC. Lastly, Carolina is going to have to outshoot the Huskies. That's been a struggle as of late, but the Heels have 6 rotation players who've been known to go off any given night. They'll need at least a couple to pull the upset. The matchup I'm watching is Nyla Harris and Sarah Strong. Both teams' leading scorers and defensive linchpins will be battling for control of the paint. If Harris is able to win, the real keys to the game for Carolina, defense and three-point shooting, will get a lot easier. Ellie?
It will be the toughest test for the season for the Heels. Thanks, Reed.
With such an epic matchup on the horizon, we've got our very own Alex Jones boots on the ground in Texas to keep an eye on the Heels. Alex, how's the energy in Fort Worth?
I'm here in Fort Worth, Texas at Dickies Arena, where in a few hours these doors will open and the women's basketball Sweet 16 will begin. Now, one of these matchups includes UNC women's basketball versus the number 1 overall seed UConn Huskies. Now, the Tar Heels have traveled a long way, not just to Fort Worth, but also to get to this regional over the course of their season. They started 3-5 in ACC play, and even their tournament fate looked in question. But on January 11th, after a blowout loss to Notre Dame, these Tar Heels decided to take matters into their own hands. They created their own motto, "It's us." So why not the Tar Heels tonight here in Fort Worth? Head coach Courtney Banghart spoke with the media yesterday and said the Tar Heels don't really even focus on the fact that they are underdogs, with UConn currently being 30-point favorites in this game. Banghart said they try to tune out all the outside noise and focus more on their game plan. And that game plan is to give 100% on every single possession. The Tar Heels need to convert offensively as much as they possibly can and really take advantage of every single opportunity against this fiery UConn squad. In addition, they need to stay locked in on the offensive and defensive ends of the court. UConn stars AZ Fudd and Sarah Strong are very fiery on the offensive end, and once that UConn offense starts rolling, it is really difficult to stop the Huskies. So in about 6 hours now, we'll see how the Tar Heels fare here in Fort Worth. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Alex. The anticipation is absolutely continuing to build. But Ellie, I got a question for you. Do you think a win tonight could warrant rushing Franklin Street?
Molly, I definitely think beating an unbeaten UConn team warrants rushing Franklin. Also, speaking of, a ton of brackets would be broken, and our men's fans know how that feels. There's been a lot going on within the program, and our men's basketball analyst, Alden Archdeacon, is here to break down where we are at the moment with the UNC coaching situation. Alden?
Yeah, thanks, Ellie. Look, it was only a relationship that lasted 5 years between Hubert Davis and Carolina basketball. Davis got broken up with by Carolina basketball because he just wasn't meeting the standard. We've all been there, right? But really what it was, Hubert Davis did not deliver in the big games. Quad 1 record, 28-47. You got to be better here at Carolina. And Bubba Cunningham, the AD, has already hit the ground running. They hired a search firm for this new hire, and I think there are 4 things they got to look for. Number 1, got to get a coach that has quick turnarounds at previous programs, experience in today's modern era of college basketball, and outside of the Carolina family hire, go out, get the best coach in the market. And then lastly, a proven winner, someone who has a strong track record, wins everywhere they go. And 5 names. 5 names have been circulating throughout the college basketball arena. Billy Donovan, Chicago Bulls, TJ Ottenberger, Iowa State, Tommy Lloyd, Arizona, Mark Bynington, Vanderbilt, and then lastly, Dusty May at Michigan. Look, Carolina can't go wrong with any of these hires. They are all great. They're all studs in the sport. The best 2 hires, though, Dusty May or Tommy Lloyd, both have sizable buyouts, $7.5 million, $11 million. But look, Carolina, it's a program that's historic, lots of tradition. They got to go for big fish, get a big name, get a guy who's going to come in, restore Carolina tradition, restore the Carolina logo, and make UNC nationally relevant again. Back to y'all at the desk.
Thanks, Alden. Heel fans are eagerly anticipating an announcement soon. But I don't know about you all, this head coach talk has me wondering what UNC men's basketball coach had the shortest tenure at Carolina. And so now we are bringing you an active trivia that we will revisit later in the game. But Ellie, I'm curious, do you have any guesses? We've got A, Roy Williams, B, Dean Smith, C, Hubert Davis, and D, Bill Guthridge.
Well, Molly, I'm more of a process of elimination kind of girl, and I don't think they would name a whole center after a coach that had the shortest tenure, so I'm going to go ahead and count out Dean Smith.
Alrighty. Well, again, the answer will be revealed at the end of the show, so make sure to stay tuned.
On Wednesday, women's lacrosse faced Northwestern in a national championship rematch. Carolina came out with a quick goal by Eliza Osborne. The game was back and forth, and with only 2-goal lead heading into halftime for the Heels. Both teams needed to make adjustments. The Wildcats needed to stop Chloe Humphrey, and UNC needed to start defending the crease better. After 2 more quarters of close lacrosse, the game came down to the last play. Northwestern calls a timeout with 39 seconds left. They came down the field and turned it over, forcing overtime. Carolina gained draw control to start OT. After a foul by Northwestern, North Carolina had a chance to seal the game with a free position. Kylie Motais shoots and it's saved. Northwestern clears the ball, marches down the field, and scores to end the game, snapping Carolina's 31-game win streak and getting revenge from last year's Natty.
I think we had a lot of opportunities. I think we can capitalize on some of those, which would have put us in a different position. I think they pressured out, which we've seen before, but I don't think there was anything that we weren't prepared for in that game.
UNC will be looking to bounce back against ECU tomorrow. UNC men's lacrosse is headed to Maryland Sunday for a top 5 matchup against number 4 Harvard. The Tar Heels are coming off a 12-11 win against Army. They'll once again look to stars like Owen Duffy to lead the offense. Gary Merrill and Caden Harshbarger need to add momentum after their 3-goal performances last game. Harvard enters as one of the toughest tests on the Carolina schedule, bringing a dangerous attack and plenty of firepower. Opening faceoff is set for 1 p.m. against the Crimson in what could be a major resume win for UNC.
After being swept by number 22 Stanford last weekend, softball was looking to get back in the win column against Wofford Wednesday night. The Heels jumped out first thanks to Shelby Barbie's infield single that sent Sanaa Thompson blazing home. But in the third, Wofford posted 3 runs on 2 singles. Down 4-1, the Heels offense exploded. Barbie added the damage with a 2-run moonshot, and the Heels were up 8-4. Carolina would pull off the win 10-7. Wednesday's game against Wofford was merely a continuation of the Heels' already impressive season. Sports Xtra reporter Mary Shelton sat down with one vet, center fielder Sanaa Thompson, to talk about her experience with Carolina softball.
Sanaa Thompson, who's going to make the catch at center field. She's going to fire home, and it's going to be another out.
In the age of the transfer portal, fewer and fewer athletes are staying at just one school during their collegiate careers. But the UNC softball team is lucky that outfielder Sanaa Thompson has spent all 3 of her seasons in Carolina blue. She's been a consistent contributor at the plate and in center field during her tenure as a Tar Heel.
Deshaun.
In 2026,
drives
she's
it.
above
Center field.
500
Sanaa Thompson, the diving
error in
catch
outfield.
as she
Thompson doesn't just have the talent, she's a leader too. As an upperclassman, she was naturally pushed into a leadership role, and similar to many of her other endeavors, she's been successful.
She's just steady, and she does things not for herself. She does it for everyone else, and that's apparent. And I think, that right there is the perfect leader.
Thompson's ability to lead hasn't changed her humble attitude, though.
Fortunately, in my last 2 years, I've been able to grow and learn from my upperclassmen, and I also have Coach Smith, who is the best leader I've ever met in my life. So just to be able to learn from people like that has really helped me.
Thompson's freshman season was also the first year for the new UNC softball coaching staff. Despite being recruited by a different coach, Thompson stuck with Carolina and has developed her game just as the program has developed under new leadership.
I've gotten to be here with them since the beginning, and I've just seen us grow year after year. And to be a part of something like that is just like, you can't have it anywhere else.
For Carolina softball, Sanaa Thompson is much more than her stat line. She represents a new era of UNC softball that is sure to see success while she leads and for years after she has graduated. I'm Mary Shelton reporting.
Fans are excited to see what Sanaa Thompson and the Heels have in store for this weekend. Thanks, Mary.
After dominating the Battle of the Carolinas on Tuesday, Carolina baseball heads to South Bend to face number 23 Notre Dame. The Diamond Heels didn't see the Fighting Irish last season, but in 2024, Carolina swept the series, outscoring Notre Dame 30-5. The Irish come in on a 4-game home win streak, led by catcher Mark Catarni, who already had 7 home runs this season. Carolina will need to limit walks while keeping their own bats hot, especially Eric Paulson, who tallied 6 homers and 33 hits so far this season. Baseball analyst Grace Nugent graces us with her vast baseball knowledge. Grace, the Diamond Heels are off to a pretty good start.
A good start they are, and it may be 40 degrees in South Bend this weekend, but Notre Dame is anything but cold. Number 23 Fighting Irish entered the rankings after sweeping Clemson, and they are on fire. Big part of that is the guy right behind me, Notre Dame ace Jack Riddell. He threw a complete gate shutout versus Clemson, has a blistering fastball. Some of the advanced analytics even show traces of Paul Skeens. A 2.06 ERA, only 8 earned runs, and 44 strikeouts on the young season. Now for head coach Scott Forbes' teams, it also comes all back to pitching. And it starts on Friday with this guy, Jason DeCaro. He's bounced back really well post a little bit tougher UVA outing, turning great performances versus Cal and Louisville, has a 1.65 ERA, but his big problem is the walks. Now he's working with pitching coach Bryant Gaines on ironing out his delivery to be a little bit more precise this upcoming weekend. Now there's a few guys in this UNC lineup who could ruin the great streak that Riddell is on. And let's start with Owen Hull. He has the highest batting average on the team with 367 and power to all fields. But it also comes down to the little things. Against South Carolina on Tuesday, it was all about just those little plays, and let's check one out right here. This is leadoff man Jake Schaffner in the very first at-bat for the Tar Heels. Watch this. He's set normally. Now the pitcher's about to go into his motion, and Schaffner, while the pitcher's in his motion, he can't change anything about it. He's flashing bunt. He puts down a perfectly placed bunt down the third base line, and you see where this third baseman had to come all the way over. No one was covering third as they were in the shift. That is a shift-beating bunt for Jake Schaffner. Uses his speed. Just absolutely no way. He gets on first. UNC has really been trying to get the leadoff man on, and that's what they're going to need to do as they go into this big ranked series in South Bend. UNC has already reached the 20-win mark on the season, and they're going for more. Molly, will you be watching?
Grace, this is a must-watch series. I'm very excited. Now, the men's tennis team is gearing up for a big test as well when they face Wake Forest tonight. UNC will look to continue their win streak after coming off of big wins against Clemson and Georgia Tech. Carolina will need 20th-ranked doubles duo Rowan Jones and Anthony Wright to secure their match against some of the highest-ranked doubles pairs in the country. Singles will be a battle, but freshmen Ian Mayhew and Case Schinnerer have both been on a roll. Number 6 Carolina women's tennis is on the road today, taking on Virginia Tech in Blacksburg. The Tar Heels are 17-1 overall and 3-0 in ACC play, looking to stay hot against a Virginia Tech team that's strong at home. The Hokies are led by Elizaveta Castillo, who brings an 11-5 singles record, and Alston Mayat, one of their most reliable winners this season. Carolina brings power and depth at the top of the lineup with Reese Brantmeyer, who can control points with her consistent play, and Tatum Evans, who is an aggressive style player and looks to finish points early.
Spring football camp is underway, with the team having its first full practice on Tuesday. After Carolina's first-year struggles, Coach Belichick is ready to turn this team around in his second year at the helm. With 52 recruits and transfers, the Heels are looking to improve with fresh faces, along with an elite group of veterans, including receiver Jordan Shipp and defensive nightmare Melkar Abujadeh. Football kicks off this season in Dublin against TCU on August 29th.
You know, last year was like a brand new team. Nobody really knew each other. This year we have something to build off of. Last year the foundation was set, and now we're like really, truly building on something. So I feel like we're always going to be ahead when you have more people returning than you did the year before.
The preparations for the game in Ireland have already been going on for months. Cooper Hall gives us a look at all it takes to stage a college football game all the way across the pond.
UNC football is slated to kick off their 2026 season against TCU this August, trading Keenan Stadium here in Chapel Hill for Aviva Stadium in Dublin, Ireland. Brendan Meehan, a director of the game, works with the team for months leading up to the event to make sure everything is prepared for the big day.
There's a huge amount that goes into it, from securing the game. So we would announce this game over a year ago. All the logistics, the operations, flying the teams over, putting them up on the ground in Ireland, and obviously showing them the professional standards and setup that they're used to both here and in TCU.
For Meehan, the countless hours spent ironing out every detail to make sure the event runs smoothly are all rewarded on game day.
It can get stressful, but it's worth it. You know, when you see the game being there, played in the Aviva Stadium, 47,000 people enjoying it, and it goes, you know, it's the relief. It's not that you want it to finish, it's just the relief.
People enjoying American football in Ireland goes back to 1988 when Boston College and Army faced off.
The first ever American college football game to be played in Europe.
Since then, the Emerald Isle Classic, the Croke Park Classic, and the Shamrock Classic have all hosted U.S. college football games in Ireland. For the past 5 years, the Aer Lingus College Football Classic has hosted the season opening game for NCAA football.
Our tagline is much more than a game. We have a huge presence of US companies and US people in Ireland and vice versa, and to keep those connections going and to strengthen them are so important to us, and it's just a natural play to bring US college football to Ireland.
More than strengthening US-Irish relations, with last year's game drawing more than 23,000 Americans, this annual matchup is the biggest tourism event in Ireland.
We just want them to come to Ireland. We want them to travel around Ireland, get to meet the Irish people, the Irish hospitality, the food, the culture, the sightseeing, and just make the most of it.
I'm Cooper Hall, reporting.
Molly, given the outcome of what happened last year against TCU, would you still be willing to fly across the ocean to watch?
You know, Ellie, I've got a bit of a travel knack, and it's actually a running joke around here that I'm away more than I am in studio. But, you know, I'd love anything to go hear that Irish accent they've got over there.
Well, speaking of flying across the pond, how about jumping into the pond? Our swimming team has been in the competition. The men's team and diving team made their way down to Atlanta on Thursday for the NCAA championships. The team off of Sean Setzer, Martin Katavi, Louis Strom, and Nate Home placed 11th in the men's 200 free relay. Louis Drum and Ben Delmar placed 15th and 18th respectively in the 400 IM preliminaries. Check GoHeels.com for updates this afternoon and tomorrow, or stream the events on ESPN+.
UNC Gymnastics is headed to Baton Rouge next week for NCAA regionals. The Tar Heels will face number 7 Stanford, number 10 Michigan, and Utah State, with only the top 2 teams advancing. Of these competitors, Carolina has only seen Stanford this season, falling by .825 points. After a 1-5 conference and 8-10 overall record, the Heels will look to put together one of their strongest meets of the season at just the right time. First rotation is Thursday at 2. Here's analyst Emily Breitz with a breakdown of what it's going to take. Emily?
With a 2-meet losing streak, the question is, what needs to change for the Heels to make a run? Consistency has been their biggest challenge this season. Early on, they were scoring in the mid-196s, but in the past month, they've hit both their highest and lowest scores back-to-back. Still, some of the biggest upward trends are coming from athletes who might not be stars, but play a crucial role in building the team's overall score. Take Nev King on vault. With a 995 start value, her only real deductions seem to come from a slight leg separation here in her first flight from board to table. Otherwise, she stuck a textbook landing. Look at this upright posture, barely a bend in the legs, and no movement on the landing. That is the standard we need to see across the board from the Heels. Another key will be handling pressure mid-rotation. On bars last weekend, Sydney Seabrook scored a 9.55 for leg separation here and not quite sticking her handstand on the bars. When Paige Prejean came in needing to stabilize the lineup, she tried to overcompensate a little too much and brought out too much power, over-rotating her blind change double front and missing the landing. As we can see here, she just over-rotated too much, landed at a 45-degree angle, momentum pushing forward, and she just couldn't recover. Whether it's blocking out scores prior or leading into positive self-talk, the focus for Carolina needs to stay on hitting their own routines. And finally, Carolina will need its top performers to deliver. They'll face tough competition, but if Seabrooks, Valahovic, and Fink can push towards season-high performances, the Heels have a real shot at finishing in the top 2 and advancing. Ellie?
That would be a big feather in the caps of the Gym Heels. Thanks, Emily. For one varsity cheerleader, finding her community at UNC came from one of the most diverse teams on campus. Sports Extra's Addison Tilley has her story.
When Sky Reed came to UNC, she was searching for something.
I definitely wanted to find like a smaller community that would make it much easier to find friends because I went to a smaller high school.
She found it in an unlikely place, 20 feet in the air. Cheerleading's co-ed structure brings together people of different genders, backgrounds, and body types.
It's definitely nice to be around people with such different backgrounds and ideas.
That experience on the team shaped how Sky leads off of it. As diversity, inclusion, and belonging chair for her sorority, Sky brings the same lessons she learned in cheerleading.
Sky says the trust she builds with her teammates here translates directly to her work creating inclusive spaces in her sorority, proving that diversity doesn't just feel good, it makes communities stronger.
Being DIV chair and also being on the cheer team has definitely aligned a lot, and it's really nice to just be able to mix the two together.
For Sky, it all comes back to finding her people.
I think it's important for people to understand that inclusion really does matter in all different areas.
Stronger together because of difference. I'm Addison Tilley reporting.
Sky has had a lot to cheer about, including the accomplishments of our Athlete of the Week.
Now, we don't normally do this, but we thought this is a must talk about moment, and the player of the week is Yusuf Shamel, who brought home Carolina's first fencing national championship in 43 years. Shamel faced off against Notre Dame freshman and Olympian Cruz Shembri, maintaining the lead throughout the final match for a 15-7 victory. He's the first Carolina fencer to win both a national and an ACC championship.
It's time for our play of the week, and once again, the winner is goal from attacker Chloe Humphrey. Humphrey seamlessly spun off of her defender and quickly found the back of the net in just one of her 8 goals against Boston College on Saturday. While women's lacrosse dropped the national championship rematch to Northwestern, snapping their long historic 31-game winning streak. Let's go back to our men's basketball trivia question.
All right, we'll review that question one more time, Ellie. Which UNC men's basketball coach had the shortest tenure at Carolina? And just one more time, we've got Roy Williams, Dean Smith, Hubert Davis, or Bill Guthridge. So, Ellie, any guesses?
Well, Hubert's been in the news a lot recently, so maybe I'll take that as a sign. Maybe it was him.
Alrighty. I'm not sure that's the best guess we've got, but it is time to reveal the answer, and the answer is D, Bill Guthridge. And so, with that, however, the shortest stint isn't his only attribute. In fact, coaches have the ability to truly shape the era of basketball.
It's so true, and with so much looming in the air right now on who will be our next coach, it's good to remember that there's always something good that can come next.
And that does it for this edition of Sports Extra.
We'll be back on Monday with all of the highlights from another exciting week in Carolina athletics.